One thing we know for sure is that it's a highly regulated space. And with regulation, it means people have to comply. Compliance also then alludes to the fact that it ends up being a very legal orientated space where instead of simplicity, there's more complexity because regulators are watching. And so insurance companies have to be compliant, and that ultimately affects the way they even communicate with clients. Our industry is also highly emotive and personal for clients. As we know, claims are the heartbeat of insurance, and that came up in the responses for everyone. So in the insurance space, what that looks like is we purchase a product with expectations that when we get to that particular event, that our claims will be paid out. And when they don't, it's quite personal. From a short-term insurance point of view, this could mean you were in a car accident and now your car isn't being paid off. You're left in a worse off position than before. The same could be spoken to when it comes to health insurance, where you expect that your treatment will be covered and it's not. And also in life insurance as well, you've lost a loved one, you're hoping that you will get your insurance claim fulfilled in time so you can do what you need to. But if that fails, it creates distrust. So this particular space is highly emotive for that reason. Sometimes the products are very complex, and here we see it not only due to communication, but also intermediary advice and mis-selling. And I did see at the beginning, one of the answers was a lack of clarity on benefits. That's very important. What am I signing up for? And understanding that at the beginning of the process can actually help you know what to expect later on when you have to claim. And earlier, actually did speak to the trust element of our industry. It is one industry where it has a high trust deficit. Globally, this is fragile, where 56% of customers trust their insurers to act in their best interests, right? So what that looks like is a lot of customers expect that you're going to meet their need when that event takes place. And unfortunately, when it doesn't, their perception is that, oh, insurance companies are just there to take premiums and to also ensure they don't pay claims, ultimately benefiting themselves. And that's why we have such a high trust deficit in our industry. I already spoke on the fact that interactions happen at claim stage, but what this highlights is that how you communicate at claim stage is important. There is a way that a claim can be rejected in a way that has dignity, that is informative, and that provides guidance to a member. So we have to always bear that in mind, because from a regulatory perspective, insurers are accountable for ensuring that clients get the right information. And we are also accountable for ensuring that our communication is in such a way that they are not left wanting. Plain language is what is prescribed. However, we continue communicating as though our customers are lawyers when they're not. And as I was saying, it's complex. So the focus is more on compliance rather than the fact that we're dealing with an everyday person who doesn't work with us. And so the way they want to comprehend communication should be more easy and less complicated. So what's the impact of communication on CX? 72% of customers said they feel abandoned post-contract. What that means is you get that long policy document that you're expected to read and understand. Many people do not. And after that, they feel abandoned because they know that the only time they might need to contact that insurer is when they have to claim. And even then, it might not go their way. 61% of customers also said they're willing to pay more for carrying brands. This speaks to what Akshay said about the Kenyan market where penetration is low. Now, if you improve the trust element in the industry, there will likely be an increase in growth and penetration. Trust erosion increases customer cancellations by over 15% more. So people cancel their policies for different reasons. It could be due to affordability, a change of life events. But when we speak to churn due to trust erosion, it contributes 15% more than all the other elements. So this does show that there is a need to transform the way we engage. And of course, the insurance customers have cited that they feel overwhelmed, unsure, and misunderstood, with 42% saying this is a top frustration. And this is what drives switches after negative interactions. So now imagine you have an insurer where already you feel overwhelmed, and when it's time to engage, you feel misunderstood. This will force you to reconsider your position with them and possibly move to someone else that you perceive as more likely to be supportive and a brand that might have a higher trust element. So if we don't address the fact that communication does impact the way customers perceive their industry and their overall experience, there isn't going to be a transformation in place.
Yes, I think Tiego, just on the stats that you've just shared, it just shows the disjoint in terms of the customer journey itself. With these customers feeling that once the sale is done, they forget about me, there's no education, there is nothing. And that actually creates a big opportunity for CX to come in as an intervention to actually close those gaps, because this level of integration that is blatant on these stats actually talks to an underlying problem where all these departments are working in silos. Onboarding has finished what they needed to do. No one is teaching that customer, because the very first interaction will be that first event, which is a claim, and the member doesn't even know how to go about claiming. That creates frustration. Only at that time you're being told about exclusions that you should have been educated about earlier on. So I think this is a very important slide in terms of what is the impact of communication when it comes to CX.
And so guys, for the purpose of this session, we thought we'd actually contextualize this and show you exactly what we mean when we say communication isn't really geared towards the average customer. So the reality of communication in this space is that it's cold and complete. There's a lack of acknowledgement for the human behind the premiums. There's context blindness. So an example I can share with you is typically, and I encourage you to do this, if you call an insurer for a claim, the first thing they might likely say to you on that call is, please confirm your ID number or your policy number. Bear in mind that when you make a call to log a claim, it typically means an event that might be displacing or even a bereavement may have taken place. Our customers call us at their most vulnerable. And there's context blindness in the way we communicate, even on email during that claims journey. Sometimes blame strategy is employed. And when I say blame strategy, it speaks to particularly the short-term space, so household insurance, for example. In an event where someone's home is damaged due to heavy rains, sometimes the communication is such that it says you didn't maintain your house and so we're not going to claim. Blame strategy does exist. We're not saying that insurers are unfair, but there is a way you can pass your feedback to a customer in a way that is productive and conducive and doesn't give them the option to put themselves in a situation where they believe they created that situation for themselves. There's also corporate distance. So typically when we engage with insurers, you'll find that at the sales stage in the adverts, they speak of us in a journey together. When the claims journey hits, it's corporate distance, it's you and it's our company. And that has to end, because a full-time partnership means that it's cradle to grave, not just at the onboarding journey. And of course, jargon. A lot of us are not attorneys, so should we be getting communication that looks like legal data? So these are some of the examples in our space, but before I move on to the next slide, I'd like to see if Akshay and Pedro would like to share anything.
Yeah, so Tiego, there's actually a great comment in from Sia on the chat, where they're basically saying that the use of technology is actually accelerating and exacerbating these communication issues. So, for example, with many companies switching to chatbots, right? Not with the view of enhancing customer experience. We all know that AI is now viewed as a cost-cutting exercise, right, across a number of organizations. And the amount of frustration and pain that's causing customers, because like you said, what the chatbot is doing is replicating and accelerating the broken communication issues. So it's just accelerating the frustration and the lack of clarity from a customer perspective. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, great comment.
That's good insight from Sia.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tiego. I think what is important here is the fact that insurance is about people, right? Not about policies. So the example that you gave, about the events being the only things that actually matter to a customer, those are actually the opportunities where if there is issues, around those things, and there is an absence of empathy at that space, most of these insurance companies, you'll find they will always have these payoff lines, we pay our claims, 98% of the time. And that's actually not what you need. You need a partner so that you are able to recover the loss because you have insured for the loss. So if we can start shifting from being a payer of claims to being a partner in recovery, and building those long-term loyalty and credibility, then things become better because I know at the time of need, my insurance company is going to come through for me. And I've understood the communication is clear, it's simple, I can interpret it myself. I'm not going to get a shock at the time of claim.
Pedro made a very important point. He said insurance is about people, not policies. And that's true. And people think and operate in a way that isn't truly how insurance companies behave. So customers, how our perspective is as humans. Firstly, how we process information and communication is unique. It's not simply that we get information and we're happy to process and go through it. How we take in information is that we tend to disengage with anything that is threatening or overwhelming. Our information processing and decision-making capacity is constrained by different things. It could be time, information, cognitive ability, stress even. And then when faced with a 47-page policy document written for an attorney, you simply can't process it. And this simply means a lot of us get that policy document. We look at whether our names, our contact details, and for household insurance, that the items we want insured are in that document. With life insurance, you'll simply check that your beneficiaries and the life cover amount is correct and you move on. Everything else in that document is overwhelming. So few people go through it simply because that's how we process information. And then at onboarding stage, this is when someone is selling a new product to you. I'll use the example of medical schemes in South Africa and health insurance. These are highly complex products. There's different options. The average medical scheme might have 5 different options you have to choose from. And the reality is, many of us make a choice based on the price or what someone else tells us they chose, because it's too complex to have to understand a 45-page benefit guide with exclusions. And this is also what truly affects the sales process, because if people are stuck with decision fatigue, which one am I going to choose? They're not going to buy a product with you. So the way we process information affects how our customers receive it and what they do with it. And that also means they tend to not engage with that content and hope for the best. And that tends to affect the way customer experience goes once they have been onboarded. There's also information asymmetry. Pedro spoke about the fact that in the space, there's a lot of silos. So you have a lot of different departments. We have lawyers, claim specialists, actuaries. Yet, in reality, it means there's a power imbalance because the people reading these documents do not work for this insurance company you're working for. We're weaponizing the fact that we have all these graduates and our customers are average people off the street. We're not saying they are not educated. We're saying that not everyone can comprehend a legal document. It is complex for a reason, and this must force us to look at the way we engage with our customers. This decision fatigue and cognitive load. So when faced with multiple choices, we disengage. And also we are in a world of constant communication. We're getting emails, WhatsApps, SMSs. We're dealing with our own lives over and above everything happening. So there is no cognitive and sometimes emotional load to go through complex communication. We also have attention scarcity. The average person can read between 8 to 10 minutes maximum, and that's for an average document. We're not speaking about work emails. And that's why now it's so important to communicate in the way people engage. I've been advocating for the fact that we need to consider sending videos and reels because the way we process information has shifted. We're no longer people that read documents. We've become more visual. People spend more time on social media scrolling, and now there's an expectation that communication and content will be shorter. And as an industry, we have to acknowledge that and evolve. And from the way customers take in information, there's also something called the ostrich effect. This happens when you're faced with complex or anxiety-inducing information. And this isn't only specific to insurance, but imagine you may have forgotten to update your banking details and you get a reminder from your bank saying you've missed your home loan payment. These emails are typically framed as a threat to your asset, a threat that you will probably be blacklisted. When people get communication that induces anxiety, they immediately ignore it. It reminds them of bad things. It could be creating stress. It could be making them feel stupid. So this is how our customers take in communication. And this is how we as humans, everyone today takes in information. We truly do not have time. And we have to transform the way engagement is done moving forward. Now, guys, as you look at communication, I want you to actually see what our customers get. This is an example of what the average person received after insuring themselves. Is it fair to truly believe this is what the average person is going to read when they receive your policy document? I'm going to move to the next slide to share some of the emails customers receive when premiums are missing. So you have Mr. Premium, maybe you changed your banking details. There could be different reasons. However, sometimes they're framed as a threat. This may result in no coverage pursuant to Section 12.3b of your policy in accordance with. Is that necessary? Especially in this day and age, where regulators are saying use plain language. On the right is an example of a claim determination. So I want us to look at the section following our determination is based on the following policy provisions. Personally, I can confirm that I truly don't understand what that means. I would have to read it a couple of times. And now thanks to ChatGPT, I can quickly check what it actually means in simple terms. But this is what our customers get.